Fans, welcome to Sports Chat. It's a historic, record-breaking week in the history of Campbell County sports.
Yeah, well, definitely in the history of Campbell County football. Cougars, of course, set a bunch of records against Halls. They're setting a bunch of records on the season. And as I said, the most important of which, they are 5-1, best start in school history, and that has them ranked number 9 in the state of Tennessee as of now.
Which puts them clashing Friday night with the number 6 team in the state, the Wildcats of Oak Ridge.
And this will, big game. Oak Ridge is the only undefeated team in the district standings. They have a loss, but that was outside the district of Farragut. So Oak Ridge sits atop the standings right now. A win here puts Campbell County in a 3-way tie with Anderson County, I believe Oak Ridge, and possibly Powell on the loss side. And sky's the limit. You come out and you take care of business on the field the rest of the year, Cougars may win the district.
I mean, that would be impressive.
Oh yeah, I mean, as of now, I believe 6 wins and you're essentially guaranteed a playoff. So Campbell County has 4 shots to get 1 more win to guarantee themselves a playoff shot. But they're playing for something bigger than that at this point in the season. And I've just never, this late in the season, to be playing for a district championship is something that doesn't often come about
I mean,
for the Cougars.
You know, Wells had some good years, some playoff runs. But this, I mean, this is next level.
7-3 is the best 10-game record in the history of the school. And Campbell County has a very, very good shot at minimum equaling that record. They have some really tough games left. Gibbs is a pretty good team. Put 28 on the board against Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge, of course, ranked 6th in the state. Powell beat Anderson County. Powell the last 2 years have been one of the top 4 teams in 5A. And they're not going away quietly.
And the rivalry game with Carnes.
Carnes has played good football this year, even though they're 0-6 now, I believe, or that may be 0-5, but they've played pretty solid football. They've been in some really close games. They were at I think a 4-point game with Anderson County, a 5-point, not Anderson County, or meet with Clinton. Campbell County played very close. Hal barely beat Carnes, so that's not a given. None of the games are givens, but Campbell County's on the precipice of something really impressive right now.
Of course, now Friday night, records fell. 103-yard interception return, 8 for 8 on the kicking game, 56 points. Ethan Jefferson's stat line is just ridiculous.
Yeah, he was 27 of 29 for 382 yards and 6 touchdowns. And that's just a stat line you don't see very often, that efficiency in completing passes especially. He had 2 drops in the first half, and otherwise he was perfect.
Corey Phillips, of course, he had the big interception too, and he had the big set the tone for the game reception early on.
Had an early touchdown reception, then came back. He had 2 touchdowns the first half, one on offense, one on defense. The defense shut Halls down when it counted, especially when they got down near the goal line. They would force turnovers. Preston Miller's interception return was just amazing. He took it 3 or 4 yards deep in the end zone, just raced down the sideline, outran the entire Halls team.
And that really put the nail in Halls' coffin, because Halls scores there, and it changes the dynamic of the second half, because we were in the mercy rule throughout the second half with a non-stop clock.
Halls is not a great team, but often over the years, Campbell County, when they didn't play great teams, still struggled, and often has not lost to not great teams. And this year's team, as hard as it is it's almost an unreal sense watching them play. And think that a football team would ever arrive up here that just blows people out of the building.
Yeah, I mean, to get wins was just the goal for a long time. This team, I mean, you look at it, I mean, they gave up 40 points to Clinton. And that, otherwise, their yards or their points per game average was tiny. It's not huge. Even with the 40.
They're still only giving up 15 points a game. I believe that this is the first time they've ever recorded 2 shutouts in a season. It's just something that doesn't happen. The Wells teams that made the playoffs went 7-3. They were built around defense. And I'm not sure that their defense was even allowed less than 16 points.
No, and there were some great defensive teams there. But this one, when you watch them collapse sometimes 3 linemen on the Christian Monday.
There's definitely never been a Cougar team that averages 39 points a game, and that's what the Cougars are averaging right now. And that's never happened. The 97 points in these back-to-back weeks is the highest back-to-back total points scored in any 2 games in Cougar history.
So I know whole years at 97 points didn't happen.
Rosas, he's 31 of 33 on extra points. I'm certain that no kicker has ever kicked 31 extra points in a season before.
Blake Potter was the most efficient kicker before Rosas, and Rosas has eclipsed his numbers.
It's just something you don't, it may even be, as much as I possibly, it may be better next year. These guys are juniors and sophomores.
I mean,
for the most part. Corey Phillips
you do
is a
lose
senior.
Corey Phillips, you lose Nick Bailey,
Bailey's a
Mundy, and
senior.
Evans. But I mean, those are big, but I mean, you
Well,
still
they're
have.
great players, but there's good players in the system right now coming through.
Well, there were some sophomores started. There was a freshman from La Follette that started. Peyton Webb, we were talking to, of course, sports information director Josh Parker before the game. He was getting the starting lineup to the eventually very dejected Hall's announcer. And I was like, wow, that guy played in the Egg Bowl last year. And he's starting right now.
He's a huge kid. He's a giant out there, and I think he'll develop and do well.
I mean, you look at some of the other sophomores. Austin Raines is a sophomore. Austin's shining at linebacker. It's just he's right now being slightly overshined on by Nick Bailey.
I mean, Austin's played well. He's third on the team in tackles. He's out of position sometimes, but that's just what happens when you're a sophomore and this is your first season starting.
Elijah Powell's a sophomore.
Elijah Powell. I watch all the games right beside Justin for the most part. 80% of the games that I'm sitting beside him. And Hall's come out to run a play, and they got in their set. And the play was going to go off tackle to the left. Elijah Powell, he got out, spread out, collapsed down right in the place where the play was, and that was just a great read. Coach Bryce Point was pointing that out to his other coaches that Powell made a great read on that play and went straight to the spot he was supposed to stop the play up. He got a little outside, and they gained a few yards because Austin Raines didn't quite get there. But like I said, both are sophomores, and they're both learning, and the sky's the limit for both of them.
I see so much potential there. I mean, you look at Ethan Jr., Torres Jr.
Well, those receivers are all juniors, and they're all dynamite. You can't stop any of the three there. Everybody's so focused on Corey Phillips. Because Corey's a big target. He's 6'3", he's very athletic. You got to double team him. If you don't double team him, he'll catch touchdowns all day long on you. And then they have Trey Torres, who's so explosive. He also gets a lot of shadow coverage, and people looking to double team him, and that's let Preston Miller and Joe Elkins just
And
run free.
then you've got the weapon who's still only slightly using Paul Cordell.
Paul Cordell, they don't run the ball. They didn't run the ball very much. I think he ran one time Friday night. The Halls were, they're stacking the box, putting 6 men up around, in the box, 7 men in the box, blitzing. When a team's doing that, you make quick throws on them and kill them. That's what happened.
And with Paul, you've also got on the other side of the ball, he's really started to come into his own linebacker.
Yeah, he had a big sack in that Clinton game, along with Isaac Ford. Everybody's learning, getting better. If they could get a win against Oak Ridge this week, and I don't know if they can or not, I like to think that they can score with anybody, I hope.
Well,
Oak Ridge gave up 28 points to Gibbs. There may have been some late garbage points, I'm not sure, but Oak Ridge is hard to stop. They have a big, strong, brutal offensive line.
Well, they played Oak Ridge fairly tight last year.
It got away in the late third, early fourth quarter. That one got away from them. The thing about it now is they believe they can play with everybody. They believe they can go out and beat everybody. And they're in condition this year. I mean, this is the third year of the program. Conditioning is finally starting to pay off really big.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you can look at those guys.
The guys can go, you know, the 48 minutes that have to go 48 minutes.
I mean, you can look at just, I'll give a good example. I saw a homecoming picture of Cordell from his freshman year and Cordell now. And I mean, obviously you're going to grow up in that time span as a high school student, but man, the difference is huge.
Oh yeah, Cordell's muscular chisel. He's like just a very slightly smaller version of Ethan Simpson, and maybe just as fast as Simpson as well. There's no drop off really at running back now, and you know he'll be back next year to the extent they need him to run. He's really good at catching passes out of the backfield. He and Torres really good at breaking tackles. Torres is one of the best people at breaking tackles. You do not bring Trey Torres down with one hit or with a shoulder. That just doesn't
He
happen.
is the best tackle breaker since Chris Johnson played there.
I mean, he's not a very big person either. He's maybe 5'8" and probably 175, 180 pounds. I don't know if it's just he's built compact, how it is, but he runs over people all the time. I mean, players bigger than him. People come up and put big hits on him. He just bounces sideways, keeps going.
Excellent footwork. I mean, and some of that's his basketball coming out in him. I mean, his footwork is off the charts. I mean, I notice it a lot from my vantage point on the field. And, I mean, you just see his feet never stop moving, and they're always looking for that spot they can plant and get out.
But they're getting really, really good instruction. That's a great staff up there right now. They're getting just the instruction they're getting is what's making the people who are good athletes look like good football players.
And I'll give an example. This Saturday, when I was practicing with the Spartans, Josh James came by, and just a little bit of footwork stuff by Josh James. People saying how he worked his feet. It made all the difference in the world on some of those guys.
I mean, that's the reason that you see the rope drills and all that going on in the springtime and all through summer, early fall camp. And practice is not just going out and putting your game plan in place, and it's individual units that break up. And you do footwork drills, you do leverage drills, you push the sleds around, and you do all that to ensure proper form, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, technique is huge.
Technique and form. If you're not the most athletic guy in the world and you have good technique and good form, you're going to be a great player. And you look at the great players in Tennessee history, they may not have been the best at the 4.3 40s or 4.4 40s, but they played their plays properly each time, and they played their lanes and made the right reads. They had good form on their tackling, and that's what mattered. That's what made the difference. And Eric Berry's a great example. Eric Berry's not a just blazing fast player, but he looks spectacular at Tennessee and now for the Chiefs because he's always in the right spot, and he always has good form.
And another thing that just is huge is the advantage players have to study film now with Huddle.
Well, that Huddle system's great. I mean, Jeffers, we're around Jeffers a lot outside of football, and his nose is in Huddle constantly. And that's what the great do. They study film. If you're an NFL quarterback, if you're a college quarterback, that's where you make yourself
That's where you separate
the field, because you know exactly what the offense is going to do. Jeffers was making good reads the other night. He got one read wrong, and Justin let him know about it. And I was sitting there marveling because Campbell County's up 35-0 or something early in the second quarter, and those coaches don't quit coaching for a second.
No.
Not for a
And
second.
again, see, I see the opposite side of it. Well, you saw the opposite side of
I came down
it
the
this
field
week too. And it's just amazing how much
They don't let up.
different it is.
If you do something wrong, and if you're ahead 42-0 or 49-0, you do something wrong, they let you know about it. And they tell you how to correct it. And that's the big difference. There's no slacking, no lackadaisical attitude. And Wells did a lot for the program his last few years after his sons had left. And I've talked to some players that played for him that feel this way. And we both have. He kind of, he just let off the gas a little bit. he was more going through the motions. He probably may not have even realized it himself, but that's the way it seemed to his players at the time.
It's easy to do. It's easy when you lose your focal point as a coach, or sometimes when you just even take the fact that Stephen Phillip graduated out, coaching in the same place for 10 years. It can be easy to get off track.
I mean, if you're doing well and winning big, you can coach 10, 20 years and be happy every day you're there. But, once his sons were gone, and they were very good football players, and you're not playing as well, you're not getting that much participation from the student body, you only have 30, 35 players on your team, it becomes tough. It becomes tough to do it every day, and that's the big difference right now. These coaches, they have such great desire to succeed.
Well, I mean,
to make those players.
Just look at their 6 a.m. conditioning and speed drills.
They do that all the time. It's just, I know Ethan gets up at 5 o'clock every morning. I mean, he's 2 hours up. He's up 2 hours earlier than your typical high school student, and he's not going home till 7 o'clock every night.
And he's maintaining a high academic standard.
Very good grades. Great kid. You'll never find a better kid than that anywhere around. You can't say enough about him. That's the way most of the team are. Every team has some players who take it less seriously than the others. That's just the way nature of life is. But that core group of guys, Bailey, Jeffers,
Phillips,
they take it seriously. Andrew Evans, they live it, breathe it, work hard every day, and that's what makes you go forward in life.
There's no good comparison to this Cougar football team. Honestly, the best local team I can compare it to is when Matt and Justin Price were in 8th grade at Jacksonville. You had a team that was just so dedicated. And that was a special group. And this is a special group. I mean, like I said, that's the best way I can put it.
Well, nothing will ever illustrate more than what they're doing up there than the proper coaches are what makes the difference between winning and losing programs at every level. If you have the right coach in place, the right staff in place, you're going to win football games eventually. That's going to happen in Tennessee if the right staff's in place. I think Jones is the right staff and the right guys for that to eventually get it going. It's going to happen in the NFL, everywhere you go. There's never been that big of a difference between Campbell County's athletes and the athletes at Anderson County, or the athletes at Cumberland Gap or Oneida, or other places that have good football success over the years. There's never been any difference. It's the same basic population demographic in all the areas.
We're actually, in a lot of those places, we have a bigger population demographic.
But it's always been the same. There's no reason that somebody was faster that lived in Oneida than lived here, but they had good coaching. That's why Oneida dominated the middle school ranks for so many years.
Well, I mean, you look at Oneida, Coach May literally was there till he died on the field. I mean, he truly died on the field, but he had a heart attack, and that was the end of his coaching career. And his son took over, and it was just seamless for a while.
That's just the way it's going to be. And once you get that, you get it going, the players stop leaving the county now. Now Campbell County is the place to play. There may be people trying to transfer into Campbell County at this point. I mean, my God, if you're a good wide receiver, why would you not want to come and play in this offense?
Yeah, I mean, why would you not want Ethan Javers throwing the ball?
If you're a good quarterback,
why would you not want to be Ethan's backup?
why would you not want to, not just be Ethan's backup, but to be the starter? I mean,
Yeah, one more year of Ethan.
If you're in the 7th or 8th grade and you're a good quarterback, you should be no thoughts of you ever leaving Campbell County now after seeing what's happened with Ethan since he was in the 8th grade and came up through here, and how much he did improve Tuffy, even in Tuffy's final year. It's just, you shouldn't ever think of leaving this anymore, and that hurts the program to the south here that fed off Campbell County. If you go and look at the Anderson County Sports Hall of Fame, it's 50% people from Campbell County in it. They're going to start feeling that pressure now that's stopping.
And I mean, I can show you Clinton, Cumberland Gap, Scott County. Clark County, all benefited from Cougar athletes.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's
Or
some
potential
private schools,
Cougar
you know, there's
athletes.
way up benefited.
Grace Christian, Catholic.
And I can't blame some of them for going to those private schools. They help your academic standing when you're trying to go on to college. But from a football's point of view, there's no reason to ever not be at Campbell County. This is proven. You get a team ranked in the top 10 of the state, nothing more can ever be asked for. And I don't know if Campbell County will ever win state title. That's something that, there's 400 high school teams or something like that in Tennessee, and only about 6 of them win state titles every year. Almost
Yeah,
every team in this state.
There's 6 public state titles every year.
Almost every team in the
Two
state
privates.
is going to end their season on a loss. That's an extremely high grade. It's possible that Campbell County could. And they can field a team that could compete with anybody. But just making the playoffs, having the big fun atmosphere, and I expect this atmosphere to be the same as it was for the Anderson County game. My hope is that, personally, I hope WBR doesn't pick this game up all of a sudden.
No.
That just makes things worse for everybody involved in covering it.
It roots the locals out for people that, I don't want to say don't necessarily care about the area, but don't have the passion for the area like the locals do.
Well, I'm afraid that, I got a bunch of texts about it the last time. There was a big house in Anderson County. There was a lot of people there. I think there would have been even more if a lot of people didn't think it was going to be on WBR Live, or the 10 News 2 Live. It was promised to be on there, so a lot of people texted, well, I'm not going to come to the game because I can watch it on TV. So I kind of hope that doesn't happen this week, because you need everybody you can there, and you need it to be loud.
And okay, Oak Ridge and Gaddis will travel well. Oak Ridge, we don't have any crowd there.
Oak Ridge has the biggest visiting section when we play basketball up here. You go to a baseball game playing in Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge, they have good parents that don't mind traveling. So you better get there early.
Fans, that's about enough to wrap us up for the evening. I hope to see all of you Thursday night at LaFollette Middle School for the annual Egg Bowl.
Next week's show, we will be talking about the results of the Egg Bowl and maybe try to get into a little bit of NFL action since the season's going underway.
And of course, we're going to have a lot to talk about with
And
this game.
The result of the big Cougar Oak Ridge showdown.
So fans, we'll see you next week.